So there's a whole thing really. I mean, with your guides talking about the need for us to be loving as well, and how important love is in the whole equation, and that the technology is not going to become accessible to us until we've reached a certain state of consciousness.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my understanding of it as well. So because the technology has such incredible implications and the vastness of it, it opens some pretty big doors. And once it's out there, it has tremendous potential to change reality, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's very important whenever a civilization moves into this type of technology and they get past that, you know, how some of the famous a stage one of society, or what's it called when they, you know, a civilization can get past that stage one where they can actually survive and start going into the stars.
Yeah.
It's having the consciousness to go with it, and having a heart-based society it's absolutely imperative. People have to, even at this point, I know it's very challenging to stay in your heart energy with the vibration around our planet right now. But as much as we possibly can do it, we still need to do it. We still need to continue to try to make that choice for love, to continue to try to tune into our heart center, and to examine our world and reality from our heart space as much as possible. And I mean, I've done a video on this, and I think it's important. I mean, I'm talking everything right down to voting, to consider listening to your heart for voting, to consider listening to your heart for propositions that are out there, how to write your Congress people, you know, how to interact with other people. I mean, to consider your heart space on everything, not just politically, economically, religiously, you know, just how we view the world, what we watch, what we listen to consider the heart space energy, to consider love and how it fits and incorporates into all of that, so that we kind of move ourselves into that vibration, and so we can embrace the higher energy changes as they come in. And as we tune into those, that's where it's asking us to do. That's what those energies are asking of us. They're resonating with our heart centers. They're resonating with a higher vibration of love. And we've got to tune into that. We've got to be open to that. And then that expansive power then will begin to transform us, bring us into a higher consciousness, bring us into an expanded awareness, and really highlight our abilities as human beings, as incarnated beings, our abilities to heal other people, to raise consciousness around the planet. And then we're moving into some serious transformation. And we can even use the magnetic technology just to help along with that process, to help us accentuate that process, because the technology is very good at that. It's very good at helping you raise your physical vibration, your vibratory rate, to get into higher states of consciousness. So
is the magnetic technology actually, in a sense, the end of the timeline? So where?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
I mean, I'm
I never thought about that. God, you know, when you think about that, because you think about how profound just that question is, because when you have the magnetic technology like in full swing, let's just say, just imagine, for example, that we really are using it around the globe. We're using it to power things. We're using it for our resources. We're using it for anti-gravitic applications. I mean, that could be a million different things that we use it for anti-gravity and everything else. But one of the key things it does is it opens up the ability to look beyond time. So in a sense, it does bring you to the point, the end, if you will, of linear time, because the technology takes you timeless. It makes you timeless, because as we document all the pulse rates that happen in this, what we call our events of our world, we can essentially, you transcend that if you wish. If you're guided to transcend that, you transcend that. Now, but keep in mind though, and let me make this very clear, even as we gain little baby steps in enlightenment and as a human race, and we are capable of working with technology as powerful as magnetic energy technology, even as we gain those higher states of awareness, part of the power of that is we recognize the value of being incarnated and playing with a timeline. You know, like we recognize the power of the illusion. It's not an illusion any more than anything else is an illusion, but the illusion of time. but at the same time, we have the ability to transcend it as we want. So, but there's so many cool things as an incarnated being. There's a lot of really valuable experiences that we can get from sequential time and from being inside of a pulse rate that makes events sequential. That's really fun. That makes things interesting. Being part of that world is a fascinating growth experience, but the technology also allows us when we need to literally transcend that pulse rate. And so that we can view events from a higher perspective. And that allows us to essentially, this goes back to the theory of relativity, that allows us to visit other systems without losing any time. That's one of the powers of magnetic technology. You can star travel, you can galaxy travel, you can go everything. Let's set our clocks at the same clock. Go back to the classic experiment. What happens if you have two clocks and you send one off on a spaceship? Well, see, in the magnetic world, though, time stays time. There's no such thing as time. That's part of the pulse rate that we're in. But it's when you travel to another star, your ship and you, or you move beyond time. So if you're gone for a day and you've gone to Alpha Centauri or you've gone to Vega and you've visited a beach, you know, and had fun like Jodie Foster in the movie, when you come back a week later, it's literally just been a week. It hasn't been 80 years. It's been a week. And part of that is because the etheric energy and the magnetic energy on a tract move at a nearly infinite velocity. And that's part of the reason why it's so hard for scientists and for us while we're incarnated and we're in a lab and we're testing this stuff. It's so hard to measure the etheric exchange because without magnetic technology, without the equivalent speed of your energetic processes and your measurement devices, you can't measure the speed of the etheric exchange. Like everything we do, all our movements, the exchange happens so fast that unless you're either moving at a nearly infinite velocity or you are tapping into the pulse rate of that particular event pulse, you can't tell that there's an exchange of energy. It's beyond our perception, if that makes sense, because it happens so fast and so flawlessly all the time. But once you move beyond all that with magnetic technology, in a sense, yes, it is like the end of the timeline because we become free of time at that point. That's crazy. I've never even thought about it that way, but that's so profound, I think, Philip.
Happy to oblige. But otherwise, I mean, you know, we started off. You know, what's the background to all this, and you covered the background, and which brings us up to the present day, and the stage we seem to be at the moment in this timeline is we need to be really raising our consciousness more than anything. And I think you've mentioned that the impending pole shift would actually, to some degree at least, or is it to it will raise the vibration of the planet as well, which would raise our consciousness.
Correct. Yeah.
But equally, we all do need to raise our love quotient, our compassion
Right. Right.
for each other, before it'll be time to release the magnetic technologies to the wider public.
Right. Yes.
So actually, this
And we,
is where I come in, isn't it? This is what
this is where you come in. This is where you come in. Exactly.
ah, is that what's going on? Telling me to get my act together.
Yeah, all of us need to. But we've got to is what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes a tremendous amount of focus and effort and letting go and releasing and continuously cleaning your energy, cleaning your aura, doing all kinds of light work, meditation on a daily basis to keep a high vibration in this current environment. And so there's no room for judgment at all here. If we fall off the horse, that's normal. That's expected. This horse is very easy to fall off of right now. So we may fall off it over and over and over, but that's okay as long as we keep coming back to it and we recognize that we can come back to a higher state of consciousness and that we can come back to tuning into our heart centers so that we're open to that new vibration of energy as it's just going to be bombarding the planet. I mean, we've seen it already. We've seen some pretty interesting, for the people that are tuned into it, we've been going through decades of little shifts all over the place. And the people that are tuned into it really feel that and recognize that. Now take that to an exponential level as those shifts start really changing. And like I've said, even in other videos, this isn't just about humans. These shifts we are genetically linked to the vibratory magnetic resonance pulse rates on this planet. We are literally genetically linked to it. And it's going to change everything. It will change animals and their behavior. The whole lion lying down, the lion and the lamb, that whole type of thing. It will change animal behavior. It'll change the chemistry even of plants. It'll change how things respond and how we interact with our environment. And then the planet itself, the change of the resonance of the ionosphere will change. Mm-hmm. Okay, the actual magnetic resonances of the ionosphere will be different. How energy is processed on this planet will be different. And I'm saying that specifically toward electricity. It will be different. And that's one of the reasons why magnetic energy is going to come online, is because electricity is going to be impacted by this process. So
we'll actually really be able to feel this timeline coming.
For sure.
Conclusion, because we'll see the more of the kind of the good news in the world rather than all the fear porn that we get through the mass media. And how we feel ourselves, and perhaps we'll become more and more conscious of how we're changing.
Yes.
As these next very few years go on, isn't it? And when you're talking about this whole transition taking place during this coming decade.
Well, much of it for sure being fully engaged, underway, getting to the other side of the hump. But then after that, there could be. So like we're going up that graph going up like that. Mm-hmm. And then after that, as things smooth out, but at least we're through the major parts of it, mm-hmm. through the major transitions, and then as things play out after that. And one of the biggest things that we were shown is that the awareness of our interconnectivity at our heart level just skyrockets. Mm-hmm. So it's that whole idea that when we hurt another, we hurt ourselves, essentially. So that feeling and that awareness becomes forefront in our consciousness. Our heart centers almost like demand more attention, partly because the amount of energy, we're all attract systems. So we're constantly attracting and converting etheric energy and then putting that energy back into the flow. constantly at an incredibly high rate, undetectable without magnetic technology. It is so high because you can't, because you'll go, well, is it terahertz? Is it gigahertz? What is it? Is it petahertz? Like, what is it? It's beyond the whole spectrum that we typically analyze as human beings. It's beyond the electrical spectrum. It's a nearly infinite velocity, so it's very difficult to detect that etheric exchange. But one thing it does for us is it allows us to move in this reality in super ultra high HD. It's like having a holodeck that is very difficult to crack because the response time is so good on it and everything is so crystal clear, and the flow is a constant. Magnetic energy, the etheric flow, it is a constant. That's one of the things that we were ingrained with. This energy flow is a constant. You can depend on it. You can depend on it to the point where you can have floating cities and they are 100% reliable. It's a constant, the flow, and it never wavers even a little bit. And so as we move into that energy and our heart centers attract much more energy than we're used to right now. Like, we're just attracting a little bitty stream right now in our heart energy centers, most of us. Our heart energy centers are barely online for most people. They're just a little trickle, but it's a high vibratory trickle. But as the energy changes, it's going to become a floodgate of energy. The heart energies will be so strong and so dominant. People will live by that energy. It will guide their daily routines. It will guide their relationships. It will guide how they interact with each other. It'll be tremendous. It'll be much more powerful than anything we've seen in our recorded history. So
yeah, that sounds very good.
It all sounds good, and it sounds like a fairy tale at this point. But as we start to go through the transitions and we see that the change happens and the vibratory rate happens, then it'll become more real for people, and it'll sink in, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I get it. I can feel my connection to other people. I can feel my connection to nature. I'm having a Buddha moment. I'm having an interconnectivity moment where I'm like really feeling like I'm one with everything." And more and more and more and more people will have that experience daily. And not only that, they'll feel the vibratory rate increase in their entire bodies. So they'll feel like a magnetic energy flowing through their bodies. Even in the slightest level of meditation, or sometimes it'll just be spontaneous, or it'll be like they'll feel it. There'll be a heightened vibration of energy literally flowing through their hands, their face, their bodies. They'll feel the prana of earth. They'll feel the accelerated rate of energy exchange that's happening in our planet and the vibratory increase in that. It'll be a palpable experience. So.
Oh. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. You covered the background and the middle ground and the foreground very well for us. Do appreciate all that. And next time, I'll come up with some more questions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure we have plenty to come up with.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.